Welcome, everyone. We are here at the We Are One Summit Inner Peace to Build a Better Planet. And today's guest, we are here with Hannah Morano, who is a longtime friend of mine. I've known her, we're both in Western Massachusetts in the United States. Hannah is the founder of Sweet Birch Herbals, and she's also a holistic health coach. And she's a community herbalist who is really devoted to providing the region with high quality plant-based medicines and that are all locally grown and sustainably harvested. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Caroline. It's so good to be here.
Yes, I feel the same. So, how did you get into wild crafting, Hannah? And what is wild crafting and how did you get into it?
Well, I would say it was something that I just did as a kid. I think a lot of kids do is just pick things in the wild and make, mud baths and sandboxes. And if you're around nature, it's just our nature to get dirty and learn about the wild and what's beyond ourselves. So it probably all began way more than I am conscious of, but I'd also say a big part for me was visiting my grandparents in southern New Hampshire, who lived on like 100 acres of blueberry bushes, and I just would go out with them and pick from the gardens and pick wild blueberries and make pies. And so it's just in my family's nature. It's in my hands, my grandmother's hands, my mother's hands. And we always grew up with a garden. So having that connection to the green world is very much part of me. And then it wasn't until my college, post-college years that I figured, learned what wild crafting or wild foraging really means, um, and that it was this whole movement that is older than we are, but also, it's beyond just survival. It's like become a very trendy thing right now, to wildcraft and forage. But I think that at this point in my life, my relationship with wildcrafting is really about slowing down, listening to the plants, being out in nature and tuning into the environment and building that relationship with the plant world and the mushroom world and the tree world. So for me now, it's really a practice in grounding, and I'm lucky that it's so much part of my business, that I'm like, well, today I'm going out to wildcraft things in the woods, and I never find what I anticipate I'll find, but there's always some beautiful treasures out there. So,
Yeah, I love that. And when you say that, like, oh, I'm lucky that this is the way that I've built my business, it's like actually you've made a lot of those choices for yourself, and you've made a lot of choices that have kind of set yourself up to share your spiritual practices and your connection to the earth, with the community and the people around you. So I don't know if it's lucky so much as something that you have designed for yourself.
yeah, I mean, I put a lot into it, and I was never one to sit still in school and follow the rules. And even though I was a good student, I always thought about what was happening outside of the classroom. And so like very on, I said to myself, I don't want to be, I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to work for the earth, and whatever she tells me to do, I will be there, So yeah, I'm lucky, and it is a you know, whole other journey to start your own business that is based in the plant world, because even though I'm my own boss, I feel that the plants are really my biggest teachers, my guides, my heroes, my allies. They have been so much part of my path.
Mhm. What plants help you with inner peace? Because that's really the larger discussion that we're kind of bringing in for this summit. Do you have like a I'm sure you've had many plant guides, but which ones really help you kind of cultivate that inner stability, that grounding, however you define inner peace for your system? What plants have assisted you along the way?
Yeah, it's funny, like I started when I started my company called Sweet Birch, I didn't really know a whole lot about the tree, Sweet Birch. And I was, reading about it. It's not the same as ex like sitting with them and experiencing them. And it was not till about 8 or 9 years later that I was reading an Ashkenazi herbalism book, and because that's my part of my heritage. And I was reading about how in Poland, the birch trees are the protectors. They help guide us between the physical world and the world beyond after death, and protect the spirits as they move across to other places. And so I think that we all have these plant spirit allies that are changing and evolving, coming and going, like, new friends, old friends. And for me, it's been sweet birch since the beginning, because it's a mild pain analgesic. It helps with inflammation, the kidney and bladder system, and we have so many in where I live, Western Mass, and they grow often after there's some kind of storm that takes down a bunch of trees where there's a lot of light exposed now. So they repair the soil and control erosion, and they come up after some kind of big natural, destructive experience. They're like the spring after the winter. And then the other ones for me that have come along the way are definitely Tulsi Holy Basil.
Mhm.
That one's from India originally, and it grows here as an annual. And I grow probably way too much. Like I have pounds and pounds and pounds, just because I just love it so much. And um, the connection for me is more than, drinking it. I've actually got to the place with Tulsi there. I don't even really like drinking it as much anymore because the spirit is so strong and in me that just growing it is enough, and being around her. And for me, that Tulsi spirit is about sovereignty and coming home to yourself, and finding your roots, and rewriting your inner stories and your contracts that you've made in this lifetime. And so Tulsi's a big one for me for
Yeah.
plant spirit journey work. And
Yeah. I feel even as you're just talking about Tulsi, I feel your heart like opening and warming, just like she just, as soon as you mention her name, she's like, "Ooh, I'm here." So that's really beautiful.
yeah, she
So,
loves.
so you work with Tulsi for this plant spirit journeys as well.
Yeah, that's a big one. And in my plant spirit journeys, I'll work with the allies that whoever I'm working, the client I'm working with, whoever's allies are coming forward, and their animal spirit allies as well. And then I'll call in my allies. So that would be probably Tulsi. Last year it was lavender. I
Mm.
just felt the spirit of lavender was really strong. And this year I don't know yet. Like we're not in garden season yet. So usually every year a new ally or a new friend will show up for me and be like, "Hey, it's my turn. I want to be part of the I want to be part of the party over there."
Aw, yeah.
Not sure who that is yet, but
Yeah. It's like getting to know a whole new friend, It's just like they slowly all come in. You don't want to get to know too many all at once or
yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. So, where do you go when you do your plant spirit journeys? Like where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, where do I go? I so I studied with a woman in Great Barrington, Mass, who she didn't teach plant spirit medicine journey work, but she taught more shamanic journey work.
Mhm.
And then through that course with her, I realized that the the reason that I was taking this course was to go on these journeys with the plants and to be more connected to their spirits. And I think it's also a past life thing. Like I don't think this is just, in this lifetime, but remembering a past life um, and so I always go usually down, down to the roots of the plants and then call in my plant allies and whether that's crawling into like the root system of the trees and the plants. And then usually like I'll come up and out into a field or into a more open space. And so there's more of that kind of crown chakra energy that comes through with sort of visuals or stories or sounds. And really it's about getting to the root of what is creating an imbalance or a disconnect in someone's life or um, you know, finding their parts of themselves that they've disconnected from or lost along the way to protect themselves. So it's a really sweet, gentle process, like sometimes it can be a little intense, but that's what we have the sage for, or the sweetgrass for, or um, mugwort for is like burning when it gets intense. I'm like, all right, let's burn the plants and like, dispel some of that energy and rattle and move it through. And then there's always this like really sweet softness at the end where it's just almost like the me and the client are like newborn babies, like we've come through this together and there's just this really, a soft awakening, new beginning. So I find that the shamanic plant work that I do, it just really gets to it's like pinpointing. It's like acupuncture in a way where it goes right to the source. And that talk therapy is great, but it sometimes it just you talk around in circles a lot, and the mind loves to play little tricks on us. And so this is without the mind. This is just working with these higher beings to guide us. And we humbly show up to them asking for support, and I find they always want to help. They're so generous.
I know. The question that I keep hearing is what has Tulsi shown you?
Hmm. Chelsea has shown me that the mothering inside of us that we're learning to do, as we grow up and grow out of our families' homes, or maybe have past trauma with our mother or parents, is that um, Tulsi has really shown me that the mother is all around all the time. And when we heal those mother wounds, we are coming home to ourselves and able to better care for ourselves. Therefore, we're better able to care for this beautiful earth that we live on and the other people and the other plants and animals on this earth. And the core essence of Tulsi has been a teacher in protecting earth, protecting water, protecting our connection and our rituals that bring us home to the earth. And right now, I think it's so needed. I mean, it always is, but um, that spirit of Tulsi being the great mother, the great teacher, the sovereign self is so needed right now, in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And what practices are lighting you up right now? What is just making you feel so alive and so connected? What's lighting you up right now?
That's a good question. I think I don't have any kids of my own, but mothering the animals and the plants in my life, taking long walks with my dog, tending to my chickens and goats, and
Mhm.
um, I used to have very rigorous spiritual practices. And as I've aged and, settled into having a home and a homestead and an apothecary and many responsibilities, I've really learned to see every moment as an opportunity for a spiritual practice. And what's lighting me up is just simple things like A really good cup of tea, a beautiful walk in the woods, quiet, just sitting by the brook and listening. And, you know, the mind wants to take me to many, many other places and all my to-do lists. But for me, what's lighting me up is just breathing in the beauty of late winter and not trying to do anything about it or stretch into a specific pose or it's just being really present to the beauty that is here, and sitting by my wood stove because the quietness of winter is just so special and will be over soon. Soon we'll be in spring. It's 45 degrees today, and I can feel the earth starting to wake up. And I love spring, but I'm cherishing the quiet moments, the time alone, the simpleness, less social, less busy.
So I know you have been the whole time that I've known you, seeing you at farmers markets and kind of, around town and all the different restaurants that carry your products. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite blends or products that you have kind of crafted over the years? Because you have some goodies.
Well, this year I've been really, I mean, always, but I love herbs that are for the emotional and physical heart, the cardio system and the nervous system. I make a heart lifting and a heart spirit support tea and tincture. That's probably like the best seller just because everyone needs a little heart support right now. Um, and my favorite things are just about building the nervous system, the adrenal system, the kidney yin in Chinese medicine, we call it, and giving people a foundation to build upon. Because when your foundation isn't supported and isn't strong, then throwing herbs at different ailments or even, throwing medicines and drugs and pharmaceuticals at different ailments isn't really going to have as beneficial impact. So really working with um, adaptogens and nervines and um, motherwort and hawthorn and eleuthero and all of the roots. And yeah, those have been my I guess steadfast products over the years have always been about nourishment because there's a lot of depletion. We give ourselves away too quickly, um, and when we're nourished and strong and sleeping good, and then there's just so much more that we can give others. So that's my hope is to
Yeah.
really fill the inner well with the plant's support. Um, we
And
grow
they're all
everything.
around us.
Yeah, they're all around us. We grow like 100 something herbs and um, yeah, so I'm just getting my seed list going and all of my spreadsheets of all the plants. That's the fun part about growing herbs is there's spreadsheets.
Oh my God.
Usually I don't obey any of them and I end up just planting things wherever like I'll be holding the tray and I'll be like, well, where does the ashwagandha want to go? And so our
Yeah.
whole plan is out the window because the ashwagandha doesn't want to go there. It wants to go over there.
Yeah, and it communicates that with you directly, and it's just like, no, this is where I want to be planted.
Yeah, I think so, like just holding the tray and it's like I walk around the field and it just kind of goes right here. Okay. Yeah.
Mm. That's really cool. Is it like when you're organizing such a large garden, I know you say you're working off these spreadsheets, but is it like timetable, like what goes out at like what gets planted at what timing? Is it like different patches, like different plants that need to be planted together? Like I can't really conceptualize like having that many like herbs. You know what I mean? Like I know they're like all your little babies, but I like I yeah, fill me in on what that looks like behind the scenes.
I always start with the spreadsheet, as I said, but then it all like it's yeah, it's to see what matures when or what likes to be planted next to certain things versus not. You know, some plants are companion plants and they like to be near others, and then some take up a ton of room and need like two rows because they're just
Mhm.
gonna take up two rows, and then crowd out the others. So yeah, it's a lot of watching what each plant does every year and how to better, plant them and support them or fertilize them and space them out. And then usually by July, I've forgotten that there's a spreadsheet. And everything is just exploding and taking over. And my job then is just to weed and water and harvest. Yeah.
That's cool. And you have like a herbal apprenticeships as well for local students. Is that correct? You kind of take people into the garden and teach them your ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's my real pride and joy is teaching. So every, I think it's about 8 or 9 months from March to November. I have a couple of different levels, and we spend one Sunday a month outside in the gardens and the apothecary, learning how to grow your own herbs and harvest and make them into different teas and tinctures and salves and um, elixirs and how to best dry them and preserve them for the rest of the year so that each person can have a apothecary in their own home.
That's so cool. Is it? Because that's how I always think of herbalism is like sort of a very like home-based tradition. You know, in many ways, that's how I think of Reiki is like it's meant to be done with very few tools, you know. If you have hands, if you have eyes, if you have intentions, right? Even if you have feet. Um, but I always think of herbalism as that same way. It's meant to be uh, like, you know, it's meant to be close to us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's really amazing in this world to learn about plants that don't, that grow in tropical places or in colder climates. And but really, I love knowing what's growing here, and think that it would be amazing if, every community or family had their own herbalist or apothecary that they could just tap into when they feel under the weather or um, for preventative issues too. It's just such a food is kind of like medicine and food are so they overlap so much, and a lot of the herbal practices were really just about cooking, throwing herbs into your pot of soup and your stir fries and your rice uh,
Mhm.
and so my hope is that people can build their resiliency at home with the plants that they're growing in pots on their porch or in their little gardens. So
I
teaching
love that.
apprentices because then I get to see, the blossoming that happens in their lives throughout the year.
Yeah, that's so special.
Yeah.
Well, Hannah, how can people find you? Where can they find your medicines and your all kinds of the good stuff that you offer in the world? Where can people find you?
Yeah, my website is Sweet Birch Herbals, all one word at .com. And then my email is on there as well. I'm on Instagram at Sweet Birch Herbals with underscores in between all the words. Also on Facebook, though I don't go and reply to things very frequently there. So
Yeah.
the best way is just the website or email me and then on the site there's about I think 50 different products too that we make. I'm a maker, so I'm a like a hands-on. Once I get an idea in my head, I have gotta, you know, process it with my hands and turn it into something and
I
I
love
give it
that.
as a gift. So
Cool. And you are offering a little free gift to our viewers as well. Can you tell us about that?
yeah, there's a ebook about herbs for stress relief and relaxation that's free when you sign up for the newsletter, and then you can just right from there click download, and you'll get a 16-page ebook to your as a PDF. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I was looking through it earlier and I was like, there's some good like there's some good kind of basic vocabulary in there and some really good kind of tutorials and there's some really interesting stuff for all levels. I'm sure we'll find something, but it looks like it's really geared towards people like me who are a little bit kind of new to it, not like super experienced. So
Yeah, it's all for beginners. Yep.
yeah. And do you have any, I guess my last question is, do you have any advice for people who you feel or that are a little bit more like city bound or maybe don't have access to be able to kind of grow their own herbs? What would you recommend to folks who tend to be a little bit more like urban based?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, there's a lot of actual CSAs that deliver herbs into cities, like herbal CSAs. I know that there's one in Western Mass that goes to Manhattan and Brooklyn and Boston. So you can look up, herbal CSA near me and some places, even if they're not in the city,
Mhm.
they do deliver fresh herbs. And then I have a CSA that's a community supported agriculture, so that it's kind of like a subscription. You get a box every 10 weeks or so of
Mhm.
herbal products and DIY recipes. And I'm sure like there's people everywhere, making herbal products. And if you just look up in wherever you live, they're everywhere underground or not.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
the basics is like just find a park, sit on a bench, and notice the trees around you. And many of the trees, they're not herbs, but they do have medicinal qualities and spirits too. So you don't necessarily have to be consuming a plant or a tree to receive its beneficial healing qualities. They will simply give them to you if you ask. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it feels like an important reminder to just like wherever you are, there's almost always something natural growing and we can tap into the trees at the park. You know, it doesn't have to be anything like fancy.
Yeah, and you can totally grow your own in pots too. Like herbs don't need that much space, and you can have a little kitchen garden, and you're right outside on a porch or on a step, and um, or on a rooftop if you're in the city. And so the herbs are pretty easy to grow. They're a little easier to grow than vegetables even.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. Well, do you have any last words of wisdom that you would like to throw out into the world?
I don't think so. I'm just so grateful to be part of this, Caroline. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for the beautiful work that you do in the world and including me in it. It's such a gift
Yes.
to know you.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel the same.
Mm.
All right, Hannah. Oh, I guess my very last question. Sometimes questions just like pop into my brain, and then I'm like, oh, one more, and then another one, and then another one. Um, but one of the things that you had kind of talked about earlier is this sort of like reciprocity. So we're like, as you're growing so much and as you are really seeing all this beauty and all these plants are like showing you their wisdom, what is your favorite way or one of your favorite ways that you like to give back? Like how do you, whether it's replenishing the soil, offering gifts, how do you kind of create that reciprocity?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I always, it's not like when you are harvesting, it's not like we're going to a grocery store, just filling our bags with things. It's a relationship, and their plants are live beings. And so um, sometimes I'll just sit quietly and get present because I want to be present for harvesting and, gathering, just breathing and offering my heart and being humble. And then if I have, I'll sometimes bring like a little bundle of herbs from my garden and give them back to the earth that I'm,
Mm,
taking from. It's just to say like thank you. And then if I don't have anything, I'll pull out a little piece of hair, give that back,
mm,
bit of my DNA or. Sometimes they sing little songs, which I'm not going to sing right now because they're not for people.
Okay.
But little ditties, just like singing along. But yeah, it's good to think about that reciprocity, and really great book to dive into that if you haven't already is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Ralph Kammerer. She talks a lot about giving back, reciprocity, living in balance. So yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Hannah, it's an honor to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for being you and sharing your gifts with the world. And so, for anybody who wants to know a little bit more about Hannah, the links are all below. So you can go and check out her socials, her website, Sweet Birch Herbals, and check out Hannah's free gift because there's definitely some gold in there. So, thank you again, Hannah.
Fine. Good to see you.